This is a very, very important question, because how do we know that the translations that we read today in Holy Scripture, or the Bible, resemble the original manuscripts? Over the centuries, some have claimed that scribal errors were intruding, and then there were copies of the errors, and those got exaggerated so that today we don't have much resembling what the original manuscripts were like. Well, this argument is faulty. In fact, it's totally wrong. This was demonstrated in 1947 when the famous Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. And in the caves at Qumran and along the Dead Sea where they were discovered, they found a scroll of Isaiah that was 250 years old, even in Jesus' day. This was a thrilling discovery because now it gave biblical scholars a chance to compare the writing, the text of Isaiah from 250 BC with the earliest manuscript version we have of Isaiah, which is the so-called Masoretic text from the 11th century AD. Now there was a 1,350-year span against which to check the accuracy of the biblical manuscripts as they were recopied. The result? 99.8% exactly the same language. And so the various modern Bible translations that we have today, nearly all of which are very reliable, are based on an extremely reliable text.
There are two unstated presuppositions or assumptions that are often behind this question. First is that as time goes on, the manuscripts used for earlier translations are lost or destroyed when later translations are done. Second, translators of the Bible really don't look at the original text. Instead, they simply revise a previous translation. But both of these presuppositions are incorrect. When the King James Version was published 400 years ago, the New Testament was based on essentially half a dozen medieval manuscripts, the earliest of which was written nearly 1,000 years after the New Testament was composed. Today, those same manuscripts that stand behind the King James Version are still in existence. We haven't lost them. Instead, we've added several others, nearly 1,000 times as many manuscripts. And our earliest manuscripts aren't a millennium removed from the original, they're mere decades later. Yet the remarkable thing is how similar all these manuscripts are from the earliest to the latest. Furthermore, today translators know Greek and Hebrew better than they did 400, 300, 200, or 100 years ago. They have more ancient copies of the Bible and are building on the solid foundation of previous generations of scholars. The major differences in the standard modern translations are stylistic. Some translations are more word for word, while others are more thought for thought. Some tend toward literary elegance, while others tend toward conversational speech. Consider three major translations of the Bible available today: the NIV, the New International Version, the RSV, Revised Standard Version, and the Net Bible, the New English Translation. Although these three were done by different translation committees with different translation philosophies, not one cardinal truth is different in any one of them. All three, as well as the King James Version, preach the same gospel, tell the same story about Jesus, confess the same God.